Hello. Once again, it's me, Chloe Bruce, talking about the situation in Britain and my feelings about being told I was schizophrenic many years ago, and how I've lived with this schizophrenia in the context of extreme poverty in Britain and the housing crisis, and also how I managed work during this period. And many videos on my YouTube channel about this. You may remember I mentioned that I used to work as a journalist covering business in Russia and the former Soviet Union and former communist bloc countries. And I've discussed somewhat the gas situation without researching it. I've posed some questions about the current gas situation in the EU and in Europe, let's say, when it comes to Russian natural gas supplies in the context of the Ukraine war. Today I'm just going to say something very quickly about the players reporting on this subject, and this has been same players for a very long time, in fact, discussing gas here in the UK at least. I call this in this title the gas gurus of Britain, let's say, but massively related to London. So I'll just read a short note about this. So today I saw a clumsy and seemingly out-of-date effort by a UK news channel saying that the Kremlin is raking in billions of euros from the sale of LNG, liquefied natural gas, to the EU. And they specifically say it's the Kremlin getting this money, but they don't mention any of the natural gas companies involved in terms of buyers and sellers. So I'm baffled for many reasons by this reportage, especially the sticky question of why they do not just up the gas pipeline volumes rather than taking liquefied natural gas. Would that not be cheaper? The pipe to LNG gas ratio may be changing in favour of LNG when it comes to sales in Europe. But why, I asked this reporter, is this the case? Why are they now getting a bit more LNG, let's say from in the Russian sales ratio, Russian pipeline gas to Russian LNG? Why is this ratio changing in favour of LNG? What are the price differentials here? I cannot see it being logically the best solution to their energy price crisis, if they have one even. So I ask this question: Would Europe take Russian gas instead of upping the US LNG imports? So would they rather start retaking Russian gas, even if it is via LNG, which is what I seem to understand, rather than maybe managing to up the amount of US gas sold to them if that's available? No one even knows the availability really of US gas in terms of what they've actually said. It hasn't really been discussed. I've mentioned some of the cons of taking gas from so far away, even if it is in the form of LNG, in earlier videos. I don't really want to spell out all these dynamics. I'm not really sure of all the facts either. I'm just saying that today's reportage did not make sense to me. Where are all the academics in this debate? Many presses here in Britain have used the Oxford Institute of Energy Studies, or for Energy Studies, as one of their sources. I see names from this institute crop up often, and this is specific to their gas research department, natural gas research department. Yet they haven't really cited me, as the case may be, even though I wrote an article for the Oxford Institute for Energy Studies. Let's say it's called the OIS as their abbreviation. I wrote an article from many, many years ago, I think it came out in 2005, on the Russian-Belarusian gas politics, and I used interdependence literature as a theoretical framework for this analysis. Yet I only had one offer of a press interview during this time. I was cited by academics outside of Britain quite healthily, but no one in Britain really gave me any extensive citations, as the case may be, as far as I can possibly see. I've said in previous videos how on one occasion this one company, the BBC of Britain, called me up for an interview after I published my article on Belarus at the OIS. But I couldn't really see what would be in it for me, giving away my life savings for no money. Not to mention the fact that the interviewers strayed away, or the producers, the case maybe, kept straying away from the subject preferring to just discuss Chechnya instead, which wasn't the topic of my doctorate. Nevertheless, other OIS academics get cited and conduct these interviews because they're permanent staff members. I wasn't. I wrote a one-off article for them. I wasn't paid, and I wasn't, for this article, I wasn't a staff member. I later wrote a small contribution to one of their books and got paid for that. Well, not for this initial article, but I'm not a permanent staff member in some of the other people there are. But if you look at the composition of staff at the OIS, you might see in the gas department, as far as I can see, a sort of overload of staff that used to belong to the company Economatters. Economatters account is a company which owns Gas Matters, the journal I worked for as a young journalist, and also Gas Strategies, its consultancy arm. I wasn't, as I say, a permanent staff member, but let's say I was also one of the people from this Gas Matters or Gas Strategies background, let's say the Economatters company. There are vast numbers of people from this Gas Strategies or Gas Matters, one or the other, who have worked there, me included. You can see maybe on their CVs a connection to the Gas Strategies company. This is of interest because James Bull, who's been the head of Gas Matters and Gas Strategies, is now linked heavily to the Schizophrenic company, which seems to be, as far as I can tell from my internet searches, to be supplying the EU in order to fill the gap for Russian shipments. I haven't read the latest from the OIS. Perhaps this might be a conflict of interest when it comes to them covering Russian natural gas. And even if it sounds friendly, it has to be maybe very detailed as to the pros and cons of American gas versus Russian gas. This might be now detailed in these studies at the OIS, but I haven't looked recently. With all this Russophobia in the media and in some academic circles, I'm kindly asking to please shed a bit more light on the UK problems also. We don't now hear much from the ex-PM Boris Johnson anymore. Last I saw of him, this Joey Johnson, he was worried about his kangaroo court. It's not fun to be in a kangaroo court, as I've said in my earlier videos. In my case, they dragged me off and incarcerate me for no other reason than they decided to say I'm dirty, with racial slants in my psychiatric notes. As my incarceration was not being allowed out of a psychiatric hospital, and they're still trying to say I need my dirt cleaned up by a social worker, and please note these social workers don't come free of charge. So please do see my other video links in the description on this video, and for more about the BBC, kangaroo courts and mental health problems and crises in the UK currently. Thank you for watching.